Hello, I'm Ricky.
And I'm Joe, and this is Season 2, Episode 9 of the Beer and Broadband Podcast. And let's just get right into it, because we're on a rapid-fire one. We're going to go straight to talking about Ginger Cider from Ace Brewing. Now, I bought this when I bought the other stuff for our beers. This is a California brewing company, and it's in Sonoma Country. It says California Cider Company, so I don't know if they're Ace or California is their actual cider company. It is really hard to read this because it's white text on a yellow background, and I don't see any ABV, but it has to be alcoholic.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. Let's say legally it has to, until you mentioned it has to be alcoholic.
It's 6% ABV. And that's it. I don't see anything else on it. They don't have any description or anything like that. They have something on here, but it's so light, I really can't read it. So we're just going to go with what your impressions are of it.
Yeah.
You're going to get this one to drink too, so.
Yeah, so this is definitely not what I expected, but it's not bad. I was expecting some sort of apple base or some sort of fruit base there with some ginger on top of it. But this is just straight up. Probably just enough of whatever fruit to call it legally a cider. I know there's like regulations there. And then just sugar, get the ABV up, and then just straight ginger. There's really no fruit flavor to this. It's all ginger. But in a very different way than like ginger beer is. Like ginger ale is often much sweeter. Ginger beer has some sweetness, but it's incredibly intense ginger. This is more of kind of like a lemony, limey sort of. It's definitely got some citrus in there, and then just like a nice mild ginger.
This kind of reminds me of ginger tea.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's like it's an alcoholic ginger tea essentially.
I don't have anything bad to say about it. It's not like when I think of cider, it's not what I think about of cider.
Yeah.
But it's smooth. It doesn't have that really heavy ginger bite to it.
It doesn't have the heat from the ginger. It's got the flavor, but not the heat.
Yeah, well, it's got a little bit of the heat. It's like mildly got the heat, because I can feel just a tiny bit of it. But it's the perfect amount. I think this is my favorite ginger drink. And the reason I like it is because I don't have to mix it with anything else to drink it. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I drink ginger beer and stuff like that by itself, but this is, if I just want some ginger and I want something that's alcoholic, I could go for this.
Yeah. I've had some alcoholic ginger ales that I could drink by itself and that were very good, but they're also then generally sweeter.
Yeah.
I kind of like that this one is much more muted. It's kind of like a semi-sweet lemonade with ginger, so it's like it's got that sweetness. It doesn't taste overly sour or like overly hot, but it's not actually sweet.
What I would love to do is make a radler with this, because it's got that kind of lemonade flavor.
Yeah,
to it.
I could definitely see that.
So yeah, this one gets a thumbs up from us.
Yeah, that's really nice. And in fact, I might have to buy some and try that radler with it, because I think you're right. It has that same sort of flavor, but since it's already got a like beer equivalent alcohol content, you're not watering down your beer.
Well, why don't we start our podcast off in summer? In our summer
that's
thing.
true.
We'll get. I'll get some of these. I'll just like kind of store them because I don't know if they'll go away, and I'll get a beer that seems like it might taste good with it, and we'll try a couple different ones.
There you go.
Some of our favorite beers over the that would be a good way to start, actually. Some of our favorite beers from over the podcast we'll try as radlers and see if we still like them.
Yeah.
So let's talk about passive income not really being passive. And let me preface this with why I'm doing this. So at some point in time, I have in the past thought about passive income. I've done some research into it, and like, what are the different types of non-scammy passive income?
Yeah.
And what does that mean? And why is it called passive income? And blah blah blah. And I, my wife and I have talked about that. And things like investing your money. So it does take effort to do, but things like investing your money or writing a book or owning a piece of real estate or something like that. It still takes your time and your effort, but you're not day to day going to a job to do it. So then that made me think, because I watched a guy talking about passive income and some of the things that you can do to earn a little extra money or have like some passive income. Why are we obsessed with this? Like, why do we need to do that? It's probably because everybody, especially in America or Europe, wants to be able to make some sort of growing wealth for themselves so that at some point in time they can retire or do something else like that. Okay, well that makes sense. But since it requires so much effort and a significant amount of your resources, is it really passive? And so the question that I have after that explanation is that a misnomer? Is that like, should we come up with another name for like incomes that don't require constant effort but require still a significant amount of effort?
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying there. I have always preferred to call things like that non-traditional income. And granted, that does loop it in with things like seasonal work or like tips and stuff like that. So, you know, if it's not based off of a job, I would always call it non-traditional. Because you're right, there is varying levels of management that happen, and even in things that seem like pure passive income after it's been done, like, oh, I wrote a book and now I'm just collecting, you know, royalties on that. It's not passive, you're just not the one doing the work. You know, there's a publishing house somewhere, there's a vendor somewhere, you're paying someone and they're taking a little bit of the money generated as payment.
Yeah.
But it's their job. You know, your part of it just isn't as heavy an investment anymore as other pieces. So yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. It is, a lot of people want to think about stuff like that of, oh, I threw an X amount of money at this and now I'm done. And now it'll just bring in more money. Kind of like it's like a savings account. It just gives you more money.
Yeah.
And, you know, my response to that, the reason it gives you more money is because you're the one doing that work that otherwise, you know, your bank managers would do. If you've invested
you're the one who's giving the money. It gives you more money because they're using your resources to do their work.
Yeah, like you're making more because you're just cutting out that middleman. You know, like I've got landlords because, you know, I'm renting a house right now and they don't have to do a lot of work, but I'm about to hit them up with a maintenance request or two, and they'll have to go do that work. And even outside of them physically having to do it, they have to keep real good track of the money that's coming in for them, for their taxes, and, you know, like we started off the first week we were there, the water heater died, so they had to replace it. So there's an expense, and, you know, they have to budget. It's not just, hey, it's in my bank account of money now, like you get with a traditional job. They have to treat that like a business and track that money and say, well, I got to keep so much of that kind of not paid back to us to handle things like, oh, our tenant's water heater broke, or one of the windows has an issue, or something like that.
So maybe somebody can come up with a better name that's not so that for the next generation, it actually provides them with a better idea of what this sort of, and I don't think that non-traditional income works either. And the reason it doesn't is because a lot of the ways that you get passive income, like investments or things like that, they are traditional. They've been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years. You know, someone giving someone else money and expecting a profit off of that when they get that return. The concept's been around for a long time. So maybe somebody can hit up with something and then you know, we can start spreading that around. It'll become like a new name for this sort of income. But I don't think that passive income truly is passive. I mean I definitely am looking at it, and everyone does that has a retirement account or something like that. How do you continue to make money with the money that you have? And especially wealthy people that have so much money, they're able to take a portion of that and, you know, make that so that they don't have to do as much work as like physical work, but you're still managing that money. I mean, what's the gentleman who is considered to be the foremost investor right now?
Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett. Yeah, I always want to say Bernie Sanders whenever I think about Warren Buffett. For some reason, they look the same to me in my mind. I know there is a huge difference between them, and I don't have any affiliation or like care about politics or anything like that. So Bernie Sanders doesn't really like come into my mind. He's just like
old white guy.
Yeah, he's just kind of old guy. But Warren Buffett, like I have a lot of esteem for because he's done like all this like work in the financial sector and everything like that. I'm not making a statement about one's better than the other or anything like that. Just saying that I have a reason to like Warren Buffett. I don't know enough about Bernie Sanders, but for some reason I always get them confused. Anyways, hilarious stupidity in Joe's brain aside, the Warren Buffett, I mean, basically his job is to manage his money, and his money continues to make him, wealth. So, and he has several businesses that he owns and things like that. But in the way that we think about this as passive income, Warren Buffett doesn't work.
Yeah.
But he absolutely puts a lot of effort into this.
Yeah.
He absolutely works. One of the quotes that I remember, or one of the things that he said, and this is some sort of paraphrase, it's not an exact quote, but one of the things that he said is that he gets up in the morning and he reads for like 4 or 5 hours before he like does anything else, and it's so he can research all the things that are happening for whether or not he needs to sell stocks or buy new things or things like that for one of his businesses. So that's a significant amount of effort, so that just said we probably need a new name for that.
Yeah, we do, and we need to update some of our mentalities about certain things, because as time goes on and things change, a lot of ideas about what are good ways to make passive income change. Like I don't know if this was Warren Buffett, but I remember there's one incredibly wealthy investor who the story, I'm not saying he likes to tell it, but like the story, news articles and stuff like that like to talk about is that, he first started making money when he was like 7 years old. He would go to a drugstore and he'd buy like a couple 4-packs of Coca-Cola, and then he'd go sell it by like construction yards and stuff for a markup. And it's like, that's how he made his money. Even as a young kid, look, he was coming up with these ideas. And it's like, and that's really cool. But then at the same time, people who aren't as educated about it say, well, okay, so why don't people just do that? Why aren't these things happening? And it's because you can't do that anymore. We've got laws and regulations. You literally can't do that anymore.
Can't do that. Like, kids can't go out and do those sort of things.
I mean, even adults can't do it. You can't, if you're not a vendor, you can't go out and start reselling things like that.
Well, you can in certain situations, but you have to have.
But you have to have. Like, I bought this other commodity, but food and drink are really the ultimate commodities. Your sustainables that get used up go through there. And I'm not saying that there aren't ways to make money. Clearly, there are. It's just that I think ideas about this change so fast. I mean, it's not even generational; it's faster than that.
Yeah.
I mean, how these markets work just evolve constantly.
And also, the people that made money doing those things in the past realized that that's a way that other people could make money, and they've put some regulations in place to keep them
and I
from
mean, there
doing
might be some of that, but even outside of that, I just think, like, what's a good investment 10 years ago is no longer a good investment now.
Yeah.
I'd strongly argue what was a good investment 5 years ago or 2 years ago isn't necessarily a good investment now.
That's absolutely true. I mean, Bitcoin is a perfect example of that. What, just 2 years ago? Or a year and a half ago, it was at its height, and now it's worth, it's worth more than it was if you got into it initially.
Yeah.
But it's worth less than it at its height, and a lot of people bought in at the height of Bitcoin.
A lot of people did. A lot of people lost a lot of money. I mean, really, there was like a 3-month window that was profitable for you if you got out. If you got in and then got out within 3 months, you made a profit on that. Of course, that's a whole other topic I won't get into. But there's like, I don't know if the FBI's on it yet, but a lot of government agencies are looking into that because it looks like there was market manipulation there.
Oh yeah,
that caused it to skyrocket and all that. Then there's the guy that I'm going to say quote unquote because that's what other people are saying. I'm not implying the man is not dead. But one guy that owned like a really popular Bitcoin market or just like cryptocurrency market went to India and passed away,
Yeah.
and he was the only one that had basically like the unlock code. So now they can't give people back their millions and millions of dollars. And some people are saying, there is a market in India for people to, like, they'll write you up a death certificate and stuff like that. And did he run away with the money, or what happened there? Or is it just, frankly, bad process, and when the president of your company knows how to get the money out?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But, there's definitely some shady things going on in the cryptocurrency world.
So, well, yeah. Don't want to alienate anybody over cryptocurrency. So we're not saying one way or the other.
I mean, I know some people that are really into cryptocurrency, and they agree on it. There's a lot of good in cryptocurrency, but anything that people get involved in, especially when it involves money, there's bad eggs.
Yeah, absolutely. That's true. That is 100% true. So, changing complete 180 on topics. Let's talk about Samsung's health tracker versus the Google Fit health tracker that you can get on your phone versus the Fitbit that you got. And I noticed, I don't think you're wearing your Fitbit.
No, it's charging. Yeah, okay. I wore it last night because I like it to track my sleep, and it was at like 15% this morning.
So I've been wearing this for a while, the Galaxy watch, and I also have another Tick watch that I've worn for like a year, I think. Well, no, not quite a year. It was 6 months that I wore it before I got this. So that Tick watch ran most of the Fit, the Google Fit, stuff, and I use that to track some of my fitness and stuff like that. And then I've used this. So before I start telling you about how I've enjoyed what I've done, I'm just curious. Now that you've had that Fitbit for like 2 months, what do you think about it? Like, how does it work?
Still love that thing. It has answered so many questions about my health. I just kind of can't get over it. I love the thing. I've lost a little bit of weight and stuff like that, but really, one of my big concerns when I was like, okay, I gotta start losing weight again, I was bad for like about a year after my kid was born, was that my feet were starting to hurt. And I was like, yeah, I just can't. I don't want to be that person that I've gotten, to a weight that I can't still be active. And Fitbit really opened my eyes to how active I am that I didn't expect I was. I average 7.5 miles of walking a day. And a lot, like, obviously me being a little bit, being heavy does add to it, but I've started to walk more and more. So like when I first got it, I was doing like 13,000, which is still like 4,000 steps above average. Most days now I'm averaging 16 to 17,000. And I'm just walking so much, I'm hurting my feet.
Ah, that's interesting.
I started wearing my shoes around when because I walk during meetings. And really, I think part of it is I'm in a lot more meetings now than I used to be because of all these like development meetings we're in now, as opposed to because we're on a team project instead of most of the projects are kind of like just me and then like one other person, so we had shorter meetings.
So let's clarify that you pace in the room that you're in or throughout your house, but you're not like walking up hills.
Yeah, I don't. No, I do some of that after work because I do like to walk normally. But yeah, no, just in my house, I generally walk 7 to 8 miles a day.
Just making clear, because there is a difference between that and like, going out and walking up hills and things like that, because it's generally level ground, or like even taking steps up and down.
Yeah.
But I would agree with, completely agree with all that. Like myself, which is a bit of a weird turn of phrase, but the way that I exercise in my house versus the way I exercised in my apartment, totally different. Because I have stairs now, and and I have 3 flights that I have to go up and down. I on a regular basis travel 10 flights of stairs every day.
Yep.
Not every day. Sometimes I only hit like 6 or 7, but I get pretty close to 10 every day. And we're both bigger men, I've done like powerlifting, and I've ran 3 miles a day and all that other stuff, and I've always consistently been a hefty guy. One of the things that I found with the Samsung and the Google Fit tracker was that you can also kind of track your meals.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Fitbit lets you do that.
It does, yeah.
So Samsung has that built in. With the Fit, you have to like kind of add that functionality to it through another thing. But I mean, all that said, I've really enjoyed being able to do that because it shows like for the most part every day I eat less than 2,200 calories. I generally have a high protein intake, and really the component that's coming in is keeping my heart rate up. That's the problem that I have, and because I know what my heart rate is throughout the day because I'm wearing this.
Yeah, because it tracks it for you.
And the one complaint that I have with the Samsung versus the Google is that the Samsung doesn't let me put in custom exercises. So
really?
Yeah. So like if I'm lifting weights, the only real thing that they have is like a lat pull down and a bench press. In tradition of all the things that we've done, we had another audio problem. I totally got to fix this. Like that's I'm gonna switch computers or whatever.
It was fun that it started right as we're going to record our largest batch of the season.
Yep, that's true. So fortunately, we only have one more episode to go. But basically, what I'd said is that the difference between the Fit and the Health tracker for Samsung is that it doesn't let me do custom weightlifting, and because I like to lift weights, and I'd gotten to like my max weight of like 375, I think is what I'd gotten to last year. And it was really exciting, but I didn't get to track up the progress that I'd gotten before that. Because I'd gotten to track the progress that I did before that with the Google Fit, but the Fit doesn't do automatic detection as easily as the Samsung does, which there's some trade-offs. So I'm trying to like figure out my balance there between the two. But I've really enjoyed it because it's let me keep track of my heart rate and how many calories I'm burning versus how many calories I'm taking in. And let me tell you, I'm probably not fat because of how many calories I take in. So it's probably got more to do with some other things like that, because I've really, like the last 2 years, have changed like the kind of food that I intake and stuff like that. But you were saying something that was pretty interesting about the Fitbit.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit. I started choking as soon as I got talk again. But yeah, so you had mentioned the flights and going up and down the stairs. If you want to get a lot of flights in, come to my neighborhood. I have a walking route that is a walking route pure convenience. It's not really so much I picked a bunch of hills as it's circular. Like I can go out of my house, get on it, run the whole way around, get back to the same point, and then come back in. It's about 1.5 miles. Though I don't know how any of the other trackers do it, but the way Fitbit does it is when it records a total movement of 10 feet in one direction, that counts as a flight. So if you've gone up 10 feet and then down 10 feet, that's 2 flights because you went up and then you went down. Or if you went up 5, then I think there's a time limit on how fast it has to be. But let's just say it's like 2 minutes. So if 1 minute later you went up another 5 feet, it counts as 10 feet. I generally get 6 or 7 a day just from being in the house because I go check my mail and stuff like that, walking up down those stairs. But when I walked that path with Cole, I think the day I had the fewest was 30 flights.
Wow.
I got an achievement that day. It's like, you've walked up like some famous skyscraper in New York City. And it doesn't feel it, which is the interesting part. Like, there are I definitely know they're there. There's 1 or 2 hills that are actually hills. And you're like, okay, I know I'm coming up on a hill. Because, like, you can't see past it anymore. It goes up like 15 feet or something like that. But a lot of it's just like steady elevation, I guess. And if you walk fast enough, you traverse it fast enough, and it was a good workout. I don't know. One of the things I like about Fitbit too is it records the quote unquote heart zones. So there's like, they call it fat burn, which I think that's just a trendy name of it's your elevated heart rate, but it's not at the point that you hit the cardio like 70% or whatever it is.
Well, so your body burns fat at a different heart rate than it burns you still have to target muscle groups, but if you're constantly exercising, whether it's aerobic or anaerobic exercise, at a certain heart rate over more than 15 minutes, your body burns fat instead of muscle. But your body will start to eat its muscle that it's building also. I mean, like, and we say eat muscle, but it doesn't produce as large of muscles. So if you're a bodybuilder and you're trying to build muscle, you want to stay out of that zone. But it'll still burn fat at the higher rate. So, like, it wouldn't matter if you're burning fat or burning...
Yeah, I mean, whatever. It's got the 3 tiers. It's like your fat burn, your cardio, and then I don't even remember what the other one's called. It's like maximum or something like that. It records those in minutes, and it does have a couple minute delay. So if you're only at a higher heart rate for like 2 minutes because you just did whatever, it generally doesn't stay around. But it's cool to see those tracked because I try and aim for 200 minutes of cardio a week. I wanted to commit to 30 minutes a day, but then I just haven't been able to commit to that every day. So I just did 200 across the week. And then just whatever else is in fat burn. It shows you all that stuff. So like yesterday, I did 27 minutes of cardio, but then like 300 minutes of fat burn. Because I guess walking just around the house gets it just high enough or whatever it is for it. Because I don't feel like I'm really exuberating much, but I guess I am moving around.
You get, because I mean, you can definitely hear on meetings that you're walking around. I know when you're walking.
Oh, really?
Because your breathing changes, and you have those little I'm exercising breaths.
Mm-hmm. Oh, really?
That happen. Okay. Yeah. So it definitely happens, and it's you can hear it on the mic when you're walking around. It's not not annoying or bad or anything like that. It just is a fact.
Yeah.
Like the way that works.
I can't sit still on it. I can sit still when I've got something to work on, like if I'm actively typing or something like that. But in a meeting, that's just, I don't know, I think better moving around.
Yeah. So yeah, if somebody's out there and they want to try for the Samsung watch, I mean, definitely you need a watch or a health tracker, but a Fitbit is probably, given the cost of like the Samsung watch, the Fitbit, especially like one of those Fitbit watch type things,
like the Vera's one I have,
is they are probably the nice sweet spot for that.
Yeah, my thing of it is, like the things like the Samsung watch do a lot more than just fitness tracking. So like if you want, I mean, it connects to your phone in more of a way like a smartwatch does.
The only other thing that it does, fitness tracking, that is really useful is alerts and phone calls. Other than that,
can you talk through the watch?
Yeah. Okay,
then you've got that. I'll say the Fitbit does alerts as well, and it notifies you when you're getting calls, and you can view your text messages and stuff in them, but you can't reply to them. If you're mostly there for fitness, I think the Fitbit does you pretty well, especially since, from a lot of recent studies, the Fitbit is more accurate, which is to be expected because it's a specialized device. Like, all it does is fitness.
I'm fairly positive that the Samsung watch is fairly close to the same level of accuracy.
As an asterisk side to this, none of them are super accurate.
Yeah.
The Fitbit is on average 12% off. And I think the Samsung, whatever the next one was, I don't remember if it was Samsung or something else, but the next one was like average of 16% off.
Yeah.
And some of them were in like the 20s. So like there's kind of that grain of salt you got to take with all of it. All of them are a bit off.
But it's still better than...
Oh, it's 100% better than just trying to keep track of it yourself.
And mostly the reason that they're off is because they can't tell the difference between you walking and you riding in a car at like a very slow speed, or you running and riding in a car at a very slow speed.
So and this could not be accurate. This is from the study I was reading on it. The big change in it is the difficulty in getting a super accurate heart rate from just being connected to your wrist.
Okay, that's true also.
Yeah.
That is true also. But just like technologies that allow you to get polling for like blood glucose and things like that. So the study that you're talking about, that's true. The biggest deviance though in your activity level is heart rate versus like travel.
Yeah.
So it looks at your GPS travel and what your heart rate is. And so like if you're walking, your heart rate doesn't elevate as much. It'll recognize that as you exercising. But if you're in a car and your heart rate's, at about the same level, let's just say you went for a walk or you got in and then you start driving until you get up to a certain speed, it can't tell the difference between when you're walking and you driving. And so if you drive a good bit,
that's a usability problem. That's 100% right.
Yeah.
Generally, what I do is I turn off auto detect for most of my exercise. I let it just go off the heart rate.
Yeah.
Because you're right. I haven't had it happen to me, but I have read on forums people complaining like, "Hey, my morning drive counted as a walk." And now it says I've walked 30 miles or whatever it was. It doesn't really, at least the Fitbit, I can't speak of any other trackers, it doesn't really artificially inflate your calories that much because your calories are almost purely based off your heart rate.
Yeah, they are purely based off your heart. So that's why I was saying like the biggest one though is for your exercise totals.
Yeah, those things are it messes up your exercise totals. I think the studies that I looked at were just purely your calories.
Yeah.
Because I think if I'm remembering the study right, they used a chest strap heart monitor and then compared it. Then they put the wrist one on them and they made them go through a variety of exercises to see the numbers between the two.
But still, from not having any tracking, only 12 to 16% off.
Yeah,
that's a huge.
It is. I will say this right now. My Fitbit, because it was on sale, cost me less than $100. It's probably the best $100. I mean, just flat out, it's the best watch I've ever had. Even if we just discount all the tracking stuff, it's the best $100 watch I've ever owned.
Yeah. So, complete departure again. This is just the episode of departures. But I wanted to talk about 5G.
Can we bring it all
networks.
back around to Bernie Sanders at the end?
Maybe. Yeah, I probably can.
Bernie
Sanders or Warren Buffett?
Well, we hit Warren Buffett, but Bernie Sanders came first.
Bernie Buffett.
Sanders and Warren.
Sanders and Warren. All right. So maybe I can, because it is talking about privacy and accuracy. So that does kind of tie into the watches too. So 5G networks, because the cell towers for them have to be like slower networks that have a higher frequency can spread out more.
Yeah. 5G needs so many dang towers.
5G is faster, but it's a lower frequency, so it's needs to be in a certain range. So the towers have to be every so many feet. I mean, it's not even like miles or anything like that. So if you can forget having it out in the middle of the desert or anything like that. But if you're going to use the 5G network, these 5G modems and things like that, they're built into phones. Like in cities, are probably going to be the places they're going to have. One of the problems that exists with these is that because the towers are so close, they can give you pinpoint, 2 centimeter accuracy of where somebody or something is, up, down, left, right, on a Y and Z axis kind of grid. That's a privacy concern.
That is a privacy concern.
But is it a real concern, or is it just something that's just an evolution of technology and we should just be okay with that?
Okay, I'm going to say this. Even if it's an evolution of technology and we just deal with it, it's still a concern. Anytime you're affecting somebody's privacy, it's still a concern. I will say, compared to other things that are generally talked about in those type of areas, it's not the biggest concern. So
I disagree. The reason I disagree with that is we already have tracking that when you walk into a mall or something like that, you start getting, if you pull out your phone and you do certain things, you'll get some advertisements.
Yeah.
Because of where you are. In the marketing economy that we have now, both in the U.S. and most first world countries, the data that you're gathering off of that sort of stuff is not gone after they market to you once.
Yeah.
They continue to collect it.
I agree with that.
They have where you've been, what you've done. Now, if you're doing something nefarious, okay. Yeah, if you're doing something bad, I can see the use for that. Having been a police officer in the past, I can totally see where that could be a useful tool. But going forward, where people should have a reasonable expectation of privacy from both the government and I think companies at this point. There probably should be an amendment to most countries' constitutions or governing laws that allow for that. Having this sort of technology out there without some sort of regulation and restriction is just insane to me. So
yeah. So I mean, I 100% agree with that. But let me dial it back to the point I was trying to make before.
Okay, sure.
It is certainly a concern. But when I think about where we're going to really be seeing 5G, because they got to be so close. I see a lot of city plans talking about, well, we'll upgrade all of our light posts so that they've got something in it to keep it there. Those are generally the same high population areas. We start talking about things like CCTV cameras. And between the two, not saying either one is good, between the two, I really think the CCTV cameras are worse.
I agree.
Because you can leave your phone at home. You can just say, hey, I'm just going to go out and go for a walk, or, I'm going to do whatever. Those cameras don't turn off. Those cameras have seen you. They know what you're wearing. They got your face right there.
Generally, CCTV cameras, unless they're privately owned or government,
That's true. There is the entity that, you've walked into my mall, so I now know this phone is there. I would tail into that there's a certain level of opt-in you have to do for that to be identifying. So, they can send push notifications to a random IP that they have. Or really, I'm actually not 100% sure they can.
They
haven't allowed...
Totally can't, even without you allowing it, because of the way that phone manufacturers have the cell network set up.
Okay, so they've got an API into that phone that you didn't have to agree to, but that's still a level of interaction that you choose. So while you can't stop the push notification, you don't have to pull out your phone. You don't have to sign in and give them any personalized information about you. But the CCTV, it's like... That's Ricky.
So really, I mean, I have concerns about that. I have problems with that. Really, where I've got my biggest issues with this are companies like Facebook.
Yeah.
Companies that
check Google, in. Hey, I saw you were at this place.
With Google is at least giving back something useful to society. They create technologies. They do things that advance us forward. Facebook hasn't delivered anything that was useful to society other than a way to have more social issues and mental health issues, and that's not useful. That's detrimental to society. So while I know that what we give to them, we don't get anything back for it. I am concerned about companies like that having these tight, because they're like, it's in every phone.
Yeah,
every phone manufacturer includes that in the phone, and they find ways to get around Apple and Google's terms of service. They've done it. They break them, and they do it, and they laugh all the way to the bank. And I mean, if there was a supervillain that was really a supervillain, it's Mark Zuckerberg and his and his Facebook company. Yeah, I mean, at least the other supervillains that we have in our societies that are kind of like the Elon Musks and the Googles and the faceless corporations, they're at least giving something back for the stuff that they take from us.
Yeah, I'll admit there's a couple big companies that I'm really not a fan of, but if I have to put it in fantasy terms, they're more like Lex Luthor's. Like, they do some bad things, they also do a lot of good things.
Yeah.
Ultimately, they're not a good person, but they are doing some good for the world. We don't have too many, at least in America, like mustache twisty, we're just 100% evil sort of places.
But if we had to choose one, it would be Facebook.
Facebook's up there. It's probably not my number one, but Facebook's up there.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's
a lot of places that are just like predatory companies that it's like super professional mic setup, nothing's breaking, conspiracy series.
Yeah. So thank you for listening to this episode of Beer and Broadband. This is going to be a general outro for every time something breaks, and you'll know that something has broken on this crappy ass MacBook Pro that we've been using, and I am totally, by the next time we get done, switching to an open source thing. Apple, I hate you. I hate you with all of my heart. All of you, it's so bad. It's so bad. But
I like how you led this, though. This is going to be the generic outro anytime we have any problem. So 2 years from now, when the open source crashes for the first time, we're going to still release the same outro.
It's never going to have a problem like this. This will be the last time. So that for the last 2 episodes, this will be the outro for it. So thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate your time, and look forward to hearing from us somewhere around Linux Fest in June, July, because we'll probably be going to good. Southeast Linux Fest then. And otherwise, this is the whatever episode of Beer and Broadband that this crashed on. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.